my name is Jason JROCK Houston, and you're listening to This Is Metal. And my partner in crime, it's along for a ride, as always, is Joe Lawson. Welcome to the show tonight, Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Just trying to get a nickel through a rolling donut.
Well, that's great. And our friend Joe got injured at work, and he sprained his ankle. We hope Joe gets better real soon. But tonight we're going to be talking about all things Lizzie Borden. Now, Lizzie Borden. Now, Joe, you've been telling me, hey, let's do a show on Lizzie Borden, and we finally got the time to schedule this today, and this has kind of been a while in the making, so I'm glad we're finally able to get to it. But I want to start off with you because I know you're a much bigger fan than I am. So let's get into how Lizzie Borden initially came on the radar for you.
Okay, well, most of what I have to contribute to tonight's show is personal experiences and opinions.
Great.
So,
yeah, that's what this is.
We'll start at the very beginning. From the time I was 10 to the time I was about 16, I lived in Minnesota with my mom and my stepfather.
Okay.
And there was a man that moved there and opened up a small recording studio.
Oh, wow.
And he worked with people like Gene Simmons and other high-profile people around the country, around the world, actually. And
amazing. Wow.
So this guy kind of took me under his wing when I was young, and he made me a deal. I could come to the studio, and he would teach me things about the music industry and about recording and things like that, as long as I did my homework. So
wow.
those couple of years were like some of the best grades I ever got because
wow, yeah.
I would go there and I would rush through my homework, or
of course,
do everything as fast as I could to try and sit in on a recording session and watch and listen and learn whatever I could, and so through this individual I met a lot of different people too, and he introduced me to the song "Me Against the World."
Wow, and that's an interesting.
I remember being blown away by that, just thinking, man, that is like the coolest song I think I ever heard in my life.
Well, that's interesting you say that, Joe, because in kind of researching and prepping for tonight's show, because of course, like a lot of people, I know who Lizzie Borden is. I'm somewhat a fan. I'd say I'm more of a casual observer. I'm aware there's a band out there called Lizzie Borden. If you ask me to name all the members of the band, probably Lizzie's the only one I can really name. That's the singer. That's who the band's centered around. Now, I'd forgotten because, like I said, in prepping for tonight's show, I'm like, okay, I want to kind of know what I'm talking about, so I'm going to go and listen to some of the songs. I was able to go on YouTube and check out some of the stuff off the albums Visual Lies and Master in Disguise. Now, Visual Lies, that's the album that song came from. And this the funny part of the story here, in regards to me in this band, is I remember when that song was being played on MTV. I remember hearing it, because that was like their big breakout hit. Now, funny thing is, all these years later, I had to go back and kind of remind myself, what was that hit song they had. And I'll tell you, the minute I heard the song, I'm watching the video today online, I'm like, yeah, that's the song. I remember. Well, yeah, Welcome Back. But I'll tell you, it was a great video for that time, for wherever the band was at. And what I always have kind of loved about Lizzie Borden is, again, I'm not a big fan, but one of the things that drew me, like when I saw that video for the first time back in the day, is I loved how they were like glammed out. They were, they kind of, not so much, but they kind of had something like, you could tell maybe they were influenced by Kiss, for example, with the theatrics and that, makeup and stuff. And so they had the look, they had the sound. And I've always dug bands kind of like that. Now it's very interesting. Me Against the World, that is also one of those songs, kind of, it's a big statement. And you could tell that, it's written from a perspective like, this is me, me going up against the world. Everybody's kind of looking at me, and right. Just it's a great statement for like a metal audience too, because a lot of metalheads, they kind of have it's me against the world attitude. I mean, even if you go back to, like we were talking in earlier, one of the earlier This Is Metal shows, when we were talking about Dee Snider and Twisted Sister, I mean, you remember those PMC hearings? I mean, they had their filthy 15 list, and they were going after all the metal bands and the metal fans. They were trying to stop us from buying these records and stuff. So, I mean, that was for that time, that was a perfect song for the metal community,
Oh yeah, it was an anthem. They had some moderately good success in the late '80s and early '90s. with a couple other records and stuff like that. But honestly, my situation was just really unique, I think.
Yeah.
But I was introduced just to that song, and really I didn't know. I was
Who
young.
they were.
I had no idea who Lizzie Borden was.
Yeah, yeah.
At all. But I just thought it was such an awesome song. It really inspired
But, that's kind of an
and it really made an influence on me. And then years later, fast forward to 99 to 2000, I was out west in Arizona, and we ended up doing about 4 shows with Lizzie.
Wow.
So I got a chance to talk to them and the big guys in the band, and it was kind of cool because the first time we played with them, we had gotten done with our set, and they apparently were in the crowd and checked us out. And myself and my guitarist were sitting at the bar, and the guitar player at the time, Alex Nelson, came over, sat down by us and started talking to us, and he asked us who we were signed to, and we looked at him and we told him we're not signed.
Wow.
And his jaw dropped, his eyes got big, and he said, "You guys aren't signed?" He couldn't believe it.
Yeah. And that's cool.
And that was my introduction to Alex.
That's so cool. Now let me ask you, Joe, that's a cool experience to have, from being a fan of this band to actually getting to open some shows with your own band with these guys. Now, take me to that place, years later, when the guitar player you mentioned, Alex Nelson, tragically, I believe he was killed in a car accident. When you hear about that and you're like, man, wow, that guy actually said that to me. We actually did a show with those guys. I mean, it's not like you and him were best buds, but at the same time, you're like, wow, I did a show with that guy. Wow, he talked to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
did you have any encounters with Lizzie himself? The singer.
No. Lizzie was more. I don't want to say standoffish because that's not true. That's not right.
But
he was more business.
Well, and I imagine too.
And kick ass and move on to the next town and do the same thing, kind of. And a lot of times singers too, you got to take care of your voice.
Oh yeah.
So you can't be out there talking and bullshitting. And
I imagine too,
especially when you're playing 4, 5, 6 nights a week, you just can't do that.
I imagine too, the guys in the band at the time. I mean, Lizzie Borden, probably of all those guys, was the highest profile guy, being the lead singer and the front man, whereas maybe Alex Nelson can go out and he's not going to be as recognized, if you know what I mean, and so they're more able to do that, like you said.
Right, and I think that was just his personality. I think he just was more a social person,
Yeah, and it's interesting because Visualize, that's kind of a breakout album, but a lot of people came to know the band with that big breakout song, and then I was listening to the follow-up album, which was called Master in Disguise, and apparently that album was really a cult favorite among the hardcore Lizzie fans. But it's interesting because when I was Visualize came out, I think in 87 or something like that, and Master in Disguise at 2 years later or so, and just looking at the video from a Master in Disguise, which I think I was watching. Love is a Crime or something. It was called something like that, and just the visual for the band. I mean, they weren't as glammed out. It's right before I think grunge was coming real big on the scene, towards when the band would kind of go away for a few years. But you could see how drastically different they weren't. So glammed out. They weren't. It wasn't all about the look so much. And I was like, wow, in just in 2 years, what a difference in the look,
Well, yeah. I mean. Even bands like Kiss,
they
went through different
phases.
They went through different evolutions of the makeup, and then no makeup, and then they put the makeup back on. So I mean, a band's got to grow
evolve,
and mature, and change and evolve a little bit too. And I think Lizzie did that very well. One thing that's always been a staple for them in their sound is, of course, Lizzie's voice is very unique, and he's a phenomenal singer, and. The melodies and the harmonies are just explosive in every song. They're so rich and so full. The song structures are very well written. If you break all that stuff down, they're really an underrated, very talented band.
Well, yeah, they've always been. I mean, that's the word, underrated. I mean, this is one of those bands that should have been much bigger than they actually were. I mean, we're speaking about. Lizzie Borden tonight for This Is Metal and that because they've made somewhat of an impact, enough on you to say, hey, let's do a show on them. And like I said, this is a band where great. They had great theatrics, and also, but it wasn't all about the theatrics. I mean, I got to say they had great songs. Lizzie could write some really great songs, and if you go back to those early albums, I mean, they really did have like a classic metal sound, and I think part of the reason they never got their big break, so to speak, was because because of different guys were coming in and out of a band, and then also because the sound, like you said, was evolving, and a lot of times, especially metal fans, they expect a band to kind of keep that classic sound. Oh, they don't sound, like for example,
Right.
Metallica did the Black Album. They're selling out. They said they'd never put out a music video. They put out nothing but music videos. They're all over on TV. They sold out. They cut their hair. And it's funny because going back to the formation of the band, for anybody who's interested, the band was formed in Los Angeles in 1983. Now, of course, formed by Lizzie Borden. But what I did not know, because I guess they came up with these stage names. Obviously, Lizzie Borden's not really his. But Joey Scott, I did not realize was his brother, who was the drummer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
very cool.
And for anybody who doesn't know, obviously Lizzie Borden is taken from the name. This is like a true life, a real true crime story. Lizzie Borden was like this axe murder of it from a 19th century, and I was reading that actually, was charged and tried for murder, but got acquitted of it. And so it's kind of one of those things. It's kind of interesting when you learn the kind of history behind the name, but there's an actual person named Lizzie Borden.
Right.
And it's an actual somebody actually murdering people and being an axe murder. I mean, it's kind of metal, if you know what I mean. And I dig the fact that this is a band. Okay, hey, what's Lizzie Borden? Okay, look it up, and you actually kind of learn something. Like I had the pleasure of interviewing Brian Wheat, the bass player from Tesla, not too long ago, about his book he just put out. And I was telling Brian, it's kind of cool that, and this was actually something with Tesla, in regards to Nikola Tesla, the famous scientist. He's like, that wasn't even our idea. It was our manager's idea. I said, because, I was, thought it was cool, Brian, that you had this band Tesla, and I'm not saying I never learned about Nikola Tesla in school, but I learned a lot more about it simply through this rock band that I was listening to, named Tesla, and it was not for your guys' band. I mean, a lot of our rock fans never would know nothing about who this guy, and Tesla, the band, was even before Elon Musk and his Tesla company. So
yeah, a lot of bands have went back to the history books and came up with album titles, band names, and you name it. For great ideas. History is stocked full of great stuch like that, man. And I love doing that.
Yeah, and then interesting thing about Lizzie Borden is very much in the vein of, say, like Kiss or Alice Cooper, where you got the central character of Lizzie Borden, and then he writes a lot of the songs, and they've got kind of like themes, like like if you listen to an Alice Cooper song, it's usually like based on a concept or something. Like all the songs are kind of based on like interesting stories, and they kind of, you sit there and you kind of, it makes you think, Joe, you know what I mean? It's not just kind of we're making metal for you and it's just nothing but heavy thunderous drums and screaming guitars. I mean, they actually put some thought into their songs and their lyrics.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're great songwriters, and like I said, they're masters of melody, man. Just great stuff, Yeah. And my favorite album probably from those guys, though, honestly, is Appointment with Death.
Oh, wow.
That was released in 2007 with their current and new guitarist, Ira Black. And I did not know this actually until tonight when I was looking some things up. Mm-hmm. George Lynch also did some guest work on that album as well. Oh. Maybe that's another reason why I like it so much.
Wow.
But they had 2 videos for that. If you've never checked them out, Tomorrow Never Comes and Under Your Skin.
Oh, wow.
And in 2008, Headbangers Ball played those constantly.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Lizzie Borden, I think, kind of, as a band, kind of had an identity crisis, very much like Alice Cooper. I mean, Alice Cooper, he's been doing it for like close to 50 years now, and he's had a legendary career, much more so than Lizzie. But what I'm talking about, you remember early on Alice Cooper was originally a band, if you know what I mean. In 1975, he broke up his original band, and he's like, I'm going solo. Alice Cooper is now a solo act. And so, like, initially Lizzie Borden, I think, kind of had the same concept. We're a band, but because he's kind of a frontman, he's become the one constant in the band all these years. He kind of, Lizzie Borden went from being a band more of a solo act. And maybe about 3 years ago, Lizzie put out, I forget the name of the album, but he put out a brand new studio album. First thing he's done in maybe like 10 or 11 years. And it actually charted. It was pretty good. Like, it was for a modern metal rock album. It was a pretty decent album. I mean, it got pretty good response. But it did not sound like anything like Me Against the World. But, for not doing anything for 11 years, coming out with something new, it was pretty. Yeah. It was pretty cool. And he was still, he still got that great ability to write songs, and got a great response. And then even on the album cover, he wasn't as glammed out and made it. But like you said, he's evolved, and he's trying to stay current. So I can dig the fact that he didn't do anything for almost 11 years, and he comes back, and people are still loving what he's doing.
Right.
And
yeah, I like I said, I think they're way underrated.
Yeah, and here's another funny story, Joe. His publicist, like, just maybe like, I think it was last November, they came out with Lizzie Borden's Greatest Hits 2, and his publicist had contacted me about doing an interview with Lizzie, and I said, sure, why not? And here's a funny story. Okay, coming out with a new album and get a chance to do an interview with somebody, and the publicist wanted to reach out to me, and he never heard back from Lizzie, so he finally told me, hey, I'm sorry, but he's not answering my calls or my emails. I don't know what to tell you. So, okay, well, yeah, you tried. What can you do? But my point is, I don't know if maybe he thought, oh, it's just the greatest hits. Who cares? But it's got that could be part of a reason. I mean, not so much that he didn't get back to the publicist to do an interview with me, but if that's somebody's kind of attitude just in general, that could have something to do with why they're not bigger. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I can't comment because I really don't know. Like I said, I didn't know them personally.
Yeah.
They were always cool to us when we played shows with them and that sort of thing. But that's.
I mean, I love
people. Yeah. I mean, if people people are interested in your band and they're willing to give you the time of day and interview you and help promote your record and your band. I mean, it's not asking that much.
Oh yeah, I mean,
if you care about what you're doing, you really should do that.
I mean, again, I'm still a fan of the music. I'm not going to say, oh, hey, publicists couldn't get him to do an interview or whatever, so I hate his music now. No, because truth be told, I dig the music, but that's just kind of, I thought, an interesting tidbit to kind of add in here. And
well, Lizzie, if you're listening to this, and if you remember me or not, hook up with Jason and give us an interview, bud.
Yeah, well, that's, like I said, this is more about promoting Lizzie Borden and what a great band it is, and what a great musician he is, great songwriter, and we're here to really kind of promote that. But just to give you kind of a non-related story, but somewhat of a similar story there, Joe, just to kind of talk to you, because I don't think the thing with Lizzie Borden was really intentional. It was an oversight or something. But I'll tell you something I really experienced kind of like that. There was a kind of a dig was, when Jack Russell first left Great White, I had contacted both Jack Russell's camp and the other band's camp. And Jack Russell, he's done like 2 or 3 interviews with me over the years, and he's really been a super cool cat. Anytime I talk to him, and each time he tells me, hey, man, you got my number. Anytime you want to call me, feel free to reach out to me. And just not even just because I was a Jack Russell fan, but I thought, man, what a cool guy, And then I contacted the other Great White band, and the publicist get back to me and said basically Mark Kindle's thing was that they wanted to know, like, did our site get a lot of did we get a lot of hits? What were the numbers that we got and stuff? And I said, okay, this is what we get and this and that. And they said, well, Mark was sorry to decline, but he only he only goes on websites that get like major hits. So I said, okay, well, thanks. We're willing. If you change your mind, we're willing to talk to you. But if not, nice knowing you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't take any offense to that. I just thought it's one of those things that, like you were saying, when you meet people, like for example, you're telling us at the top of the show tonight, you had a conversation with Alex Nelson. You didn't know the guy real personally. He wasn't like your best bud or anything, but that left an impression with you. Like, man, what a super cool guy. He had no errors.
Yeah, absolutely. He had nothing to gain from that, and it was quite a compliment, especially, just a small Midwestern kid, going across the country chasing a dream, and for a guy like that to come up and say something like that, it was very memorable for me.
Yeah, and Joe, I sent you a few. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but just tonight, like before we went on, about an hour before, I sent you a couple of clips that I came across in regards to Lizzie Borden and the film Decline of Western Civilization Part 2. And you and I have discussed, like, eventually we're going to do a episode on that, but so we're not going to get too in detail, but that is a film that was kind of this director named Penelope's Theory. She put together this film, kind of based on the metal community at that time, which I think was around 1987 or 1988 when the film came out, and it had all these different like up-and-coming bands and established acts, and Lizzie Borden was kind of one of the up-and-coming bands that got featured in the film. But like you seen Lizzie Borden talking in one of the clips I sent you, he was actually talking about, well, we were featured in the film, but a lot of what we did got cut out of the film because they wanted to the director wanted to feature more of a well-known stars like Kiss and Ozzy, and even Poison. That was when Poison was really just coming out with their first album and starting to break big. But and they had Megadeth and Alice Cooper, and Lizzie, like, but as a part of being in the film, the director shot like a video of Lizzie Borden performing a cover. It was a live version of Steppenwolf's "Born to Be Wild," and that's another one of those clips that years later, even though Lizzie Borden wasn't like featured heavily in the film, they got that song on the soundtrack, and you play that video for that song. It's amazing that they're doing somebody else's material. It's a cover, but I mean, it made a lasting impression for anybody that saw that film.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first off, if you've never seen that movie, I got to question your metal credentials.
Oh yeah.
But if you haven't, if there is anybody out there going, "What's the decline of Western civilization?" You got to check it out, man.
Yeah, I mean,
every metal fan needs to see that.
And the thing I laugh about is like even the title. I mean, the decline of Western civilization, Part 2, the Metal Years. I wasn't even. I'm not even to this day aware of what Part 1 was about, but that's the film. That Part 2 is the film everybody knows. If you're any kind of rock fan, and probably the standout feature in that film, and I think most people know what I mean if you're a metalhead, is the Chris Holmes scene. But Lizzie Borden was kind of they didn't have a huge role in the film, but because that song was in there, and even I sent you a clip tonight where Lizzie Borden was doing an interview with Adam Curry, of all people, of MTV fame, when he used to host Headbangers Ball, I think back in 1987 or 88, the clip was from, and he was talking about, well, let me tell you, Adam, about the video. He goes, without even having any control over it, what they did is I have the guys from Aerosmith, the guys from Kiss, Alice Cooper, Lemmy, all these big rock stars that were also featured in the film in my video, and basically what they did is they just pieced together like different clips from a movie, parts of a performance, the live performance of the band that was shot in Los Angeles, pieced it all together, but it was a nice little clip. It's like a who's who of metal at the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah, and it was interesting looking at those Headbangers Ball clips because, I mean, when most people think of, let's be honest, most people think of Headbangers Ball, we think of Ricky Rackman as the host. I mean, he kind of became, like when we think of that metal show, we think of Eddie Trunk, Don Jamieson, Jim Florentine. But very early on when they first started having headbangers. Well, Adam Curry was the host, and
I remember that.
and he kind of was. He had this long hair. He was all glammed out and everything. I mean, he kind of looked like a rock star back in the day himself. But if you go back and you look at like a clip like what I sent you, I mean, he really doesn't look all that metal. But I mean, I know he was trying to look. He's trying to have that rock look, and that's what that was at the time, the big hair and everything. But it kind of is funny to go back and look at that because, like, hey, he doesn't look too. I mean, we put him like next to Ricky Rackman. He doesn't look too metal, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. But going back to Lizzie Borden, also that album you spoke of, Visual Lies.
Yeah.
Joe Holmes played on that record.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Joe Holmes later went on to play in Ozzy's band. I believe it was the Osmosis record that he played on.
Oh yeah, and very interesting enough, before he ever joined Ozzy's band, which people forget, he actually toured with David Lee Roth. Now, when David Lee Roth put out his third solo album, was called A Little Ain't Enough. That was the one that featured that 17-year-old guitar whiz Jason Becker. But right as Jason Becker was joining David Lee Roth's band, he became sick with his Lou Gehrig's disease, and he got to a point where he could not play anymore. So when Dave decided to go on the road, Jason Becker was no longer in the band. He took Joe Holmes on the road to replace Jason Becker. And it's kind of interesting because Joe was kind of just coming up, like just had left Lizzie Borden and that. This is before he'd ever played with Ozzy. And you know, David Lee Roth was kind of still high profile at the time, but nowhere near Ozzy. But you'd never seen him like even on the cover of Guitar World magazine, which is amazing because even I think years later when he went to play with Ozzy, you know, you heard everybody talking about this guy Joe Holmes that used to be playing with Lizzie Borden. He's with Ozzy Osbourne now, but you never really seen him get like a lot of press, say like a Warren DeMartini or even a Eddie Van Halen or Jason Becker. And it's kind of interesting.
Right. Yeah, he wasn't. And you know the guy's a phenomenal guitar player.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, in his own right and everything. But yeah, you're right. He never hit that plateau that some of the other guitar players that went on, you know, that played with Ozzy, especially anybody that plays with Ozzy, usually that launches their career in superstardom, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that and also Lizzie Borden had two guitar players that died in car crashes. I think that's kind of creepy and scary.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Alex did, and so did Corey James.
Oh wow, okay. Well, I wasn't aware of that, but yeah.
Two guys in the band died in car accidents.
That's kind of interesting. Yeah, and you know, the other thing too is probably when you think of Lizzie Borden, probably Visual Lies was probably their highest kind of profile album, where that's kind of album most people would be aware of if you were around like in the 80s at that time. But
right.
But they continued to put and see when they first got discovered, I think they got signed. You know, they formed in '83. Like a year later, in '84 they get signed to Metal Blade, which is like the same label that you know, Armored Saint was on in that, and all these other great metal bands. But see, the other thing, Lizzie Borden. I mean, they were like big in the clubs, and they were. They do headlining shows there, but they never really got on one of those big arena tours, you know?
Well, you know, yeah, they never...
like, you never see them get on a...
They never launched into, like, their own superstardom type of thing. I mean, they were always...
just a step away.
In the 90s and 2000s, they played every major festival around the world.
Yeah, I mean
they played Sweden Metal Fest, they played... Keep It True Fest and all of these festivals in Germany and Wacken and I mean they played all the big name metal fests.
I mean I almost dare say they were I mean even to this day I dare say they're probably bigger in Europe than they ever. I mean in the 80s they were very big here, but just they were like kind of I think one of those bands that were always one step away from really breaking out in a big way, you know.
Well, again, like I said, you know, there's few bands that really obtain that, you know. And in my opinion, some of my favorite bands never hit that plateau.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, some of the bands that I listen to all the time and love were always underground, you know, and a lot of true metal really is underground.
Yeah, yeah,
But another great album from Lizzie is Deal with the Devil, the 2000 album that they put out. That's a really good one, too.
I'll have to check that out.
They're all really good.
Oh,
Big
yeah,
Little
yeah.
Lies, Master of the Skies.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, all of them are great records, but those are just some of my personal favorites.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely check out that one, too.
Oh, how interesting. But you know, like, you know, while we're on the subject of that, Joe, kind of a little off topic tonight, but I was recently online reading that, you know, Rex Brown has come out recently as saying that, you know, Pantera, in reference to Pantera, which is very metal, if you go and check out, I guess their first couple of albums, they had a different singer before Phil Anselmo was ever in the band. And Pantera, I guess, probably in a large part because Vinny and Dime were like really big Kiss fans, like we, you know, discussed on our Pantera episode. The band at that time, they had kind of a glammy look. They were kind of more glam rock sounding, but that had more to do too with the singer Terry Dale, I think was his name at the time. But Rex has come out recently saying, you know, for people they keep asking about, they want those albums to kind of be reissued. He's like, don't count your luck on that, because when I think of Pantera, I think of Phil Anselmo. He goes, that guy that was the other singer, from the day I met him, he never had a job and this and that. And he's like, he goes, I don't think of Pantera as those first four albums. I think of Pantera as what we became with Phil Anselmo. Now, the thing to me is, okay, I can kind of understand that, but I kind of hate when bands kind of diss where they started from, or they try to, you know, deny their past.
Well, you know, everybody looks at things, you know,
differently.
Their own way
Yeah.
You know, for their own reasons. But yeah, you shouldn't dismiss where you came from, you know, or be ashamed of it. I don't think that he was ashamed of it or whatever.
Yeah.
I just think that, you know, maybe that's just his personal feelings.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know, that's really how he feels. You know?
Yeah. Now, and it's not, maybe it's not for you or me to say, I guess, but that's a democratic way to be. But from a fan perspective, you know, like you say, oh man, I'd love to hear that stuff. Do you think they should release it because the fans want it, or do you think, like you being a you know, an artist yourself, Joe? I mean, if you had like earlier music that you put out and fans are hearing kind of about it on the underground, they're like, hey Joe, we'd love to hear that. Do you think you might have a similar attitude, like, well, I'm not really, you know, I don't really like thinking back to that time, or would you say, well, fans might dig it, so let's put out, you know, what's your attitude towards stuff like that?
Well, you know, again, you're involving more than one person has to make that decision.
Yeah.
So
the record company, I guess.
A lot of times that gets really kind of difficult because you know, one person might feel the complete opposite. You know.
Yeah.
But just speaking personally myself, I would be honored. I would think that that's a good thing, you know. And I mean, I understand the perspective from a artist point of integrity.
Yeah, okay.
You know, maybe you feel like you've grown and you've gotten a lot better over the years.
Yeah. And
the records that you put out that established your band, a band like Pantera, let's say.
Yeah.
You know, I could see them not wanting to put those records out. I understand that.
Okay, that's cool. And you know, and you know, the other thing is, Joe, that I was kind of curious about it. I seen that you were just talking online about regarding your band, the Scream Kings, and you said, you're telling me about the last episode that you got pretty much the next album in the can. But I see that you got 2 new members. Would you like to talk about the 2 new members?
Yeah. We got Wendell Craig on drums and Tim Miller on bass, and we started rehearsing not too long ago, and we're getting songs together to do live stuff, hopefully this spring and summer.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to be working on finishing some of these videos that we've been working on to help promote the record. And we're in the process right now of auditioning guitar players to get our lineup complete. That's exciting. And before we wrap it up tonight, Joe, I got a couple other kind of, not so much about Lizzie Borden, but kind of just to wrap things up for tonight, that I've been reading online, kind of metal related, get your thoughts on. Now, I know you're, like me, a big Ronnie James Dio fan, and,
the next February and March going to be really Ronnie James Dio heavy because this week on February 12th, we're going to get a couple of new Dio releases. They're live releases. One is called Holy Dio Live. Actually, it's kind of, from what I understand, it's the Dio band, Ronnie's final version of Dio, with I think Rudy Sarzo's on it, and I think Doug Aldridge and Simon Wright. That's the band backing him, and Scott Warren on keys. They perform Dio's Holy Diver album from start to finish, and they got a few extra the hits kind of thrown in there, so that's something to look forward to. And then we get another Dio live, like from New York City. I think it's called Evil or Divine, and it's got some extra kind of like bonus stuff on there. And I think you can get on both of these releases. I think you can either get like a 2 CD set, and then if you want to get it, it's a little more expensive. But if you want to get like it on vinyl, you can get like I think it's a four album kind of package.
Cool.
Yeah, and so that we have that, and then what I'm really looking forward to is in March 5th to be exact, we get a couple of Black Sabbath special releases featuring Ronnie James Dio. They're like remastered, I think, reissue of both. I think I sent you the information about this. I seen online. Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell kind of getting repackaged. I think we get like 2 CDs on each of these, and you get like a couple of live concerts or live versions of the songs like on disc 2. So that's kind of interesting to have, and I always dig stuff like doing that. Now what I dig about these new releases is they're not just kind of being reissued kind of for the sake of reissuing. I dig the fact that, okay, if you're going to reissue, it's not entirely in its original format. Like, for example, if you get the CD, which I plan to do, on disc 2, like I said, you get like a live concert from that time period of Black Sabbath. So that's a little something they're throwing in. It makes it kind of a little worth your while.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard for me to say anything bad about Dio. I mean,
yeah.
Huge inspiration to me.
And then I think a big reason that the stuff that has come out Dio related since he died, I think a big part of why it's packaged so nice is his wife Wendy. She's in charge of all of that, so she has a big role in making sure that it gets delivered in a way that Ronnie would like. Yeah, absolutely, and that's the way it should be, man. Yeah, and we were speaking of Doug Aldridge. Used to play in Dio, and I got to tell people. I think we were talking to on the last episode that since I last talked to you, I got the new Dead Daisy CD, which is just a real rockin' event. I mean, it features the legendary Glenn Hughes, and then of course Doug Aldridge is in there, and Doug Aldridge is just an amazing guitar player. Glenn Hughes, when you consider a guy's like in his 70s and he can still scream like that, and Glenn Hughes is, they call him the voice of rock because he can do it all. Like he can scream like he's fronting a metal band, and he could sing like an angel.
Yeah, the guy's got a very identifiable, smooth voice. Yeah, he's a great singer and bass player. I mean, he came into Dead Daisies and replaced 2 members at one time.
Oh yeah, they
replaced their bass player and their guitar player with one guy, Glenn Hughes. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
And what a way to be like, but it works. What a way to be cost efficient, if you know what I mean. That worked out in their favor, or maybe it worked out in Glenn's favor. Maybe Glenn said, since I'm replacing 2 guys, I get both their pay. Yeah. It's just amazing. But yeah, it's probably the best rock release that's come out this year. But again, that's what else I'm waiting to see is what else comes out this year. But we just don't know. And then Megadeth was supposed to have a new album coming out, but I hear now that
sweet,
they may decide to hold off on that until they can actually get back to touring.
Right.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that'll be soon.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed talking to you again, Joe, and thanks for kind
Likewise.
of helping us shine a light on Lizzie Borden, because like I said, I'm kind of a casual fan, but the more I listen to this stuff, the more it kind of brings me back to when I first heard Me Against the World. And again, anybody, we'll end on this. I'll say anybody who's not a Lizzie Borden fan, you can go on YouTube and check this stuff out. But check out the song and the video for Me Against the World. That is like Joe and me are talking. That's where a lot of people.
That's their anthem.
That's their anthem. That's and other thing that reminded me of is recently I got a chance to interview like towards the end of last year Doro, because she put out a greatest hits album, and she's so awesome and cool to talk to. But she had this.
Send me a link for that, bro.
I will.
Yeah,
but,
I want to listen to that.
But I'll tell you what is so cool. In prepping for interviewing her, I was having like a flashback listening to all the tracks on her greatest hits, and I was playing this track that I totally, very much like the Lizzie Borden track, I totally forgot about, but it's from her band Warlock, All We Are. And that's another one of those tunes.
My favorite Doro
If you
song.
ever hear it, it's like, again, man, how did I forget about that track? But it took me back to like 1987 all over again when I heard it for the first time. Man, how is that band not bigger? But part of it was, I think, because Doro was a front woman and all eyes were on her, everybody's paying. And I think that was one of, like, the band was not getting maybe the attention they wanted, but that's why she was almost forced to go solo, because everybody was calling her
so
Doro.
Fixated on her.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But it's amazing. So I'm glad that we get to look back on some of these classic artists like this. And Doro, you got to love her, because she's still out there rocking and doing it and celebrating her.
She's the queen. I call her the queen of metal.
In fact, I'm going to send you the interview later, Joe, just so you can listen to it. And that's what I kind of referred to her as the queen of metal. I mean, there was her and Lita Ford, but even if you just ever get a chance like me to even talk to her on the phone, she's just the sweetest, nicest thing. And she put out the greatest hits, I think it's called Diamonds or something like that, and you can get it on Amazon or wherever you get your music. But it's like got some new stuff she recorded, some of her classics. It'll just take you back, and she's got duets on there with guys like Peter Steele from Typo Negative, who's no longer with us, Lemmy. And she was telling me how her and Lemmy were like just the best of friends.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Excellent.
Well, Joe, I love catching up. And next time when we do this, you and I were discussing, we're going to talk about the fact that this March coming up is going to mark the anniversary of Randy Rhoads' death. So we don't want to just talk about his death, obviously, but we want to talk about his amazing legacy that
smoking guitar playing
that he left behind, with just 2 great albums, which is kind of hard to do, but he somehow managed to do it.
Absolutely. And check out front to back Lizzie Borden, Appointment with Death. You got to check it out, bro.
Okay, I will do that. I will do that, and maybe we can discuss that too on a future episode. But thanks, Joe Lawson, and we'll do this again.
Likewise. Take care.
Bye-bye.